Hey, Angry Foreigner, are you there?
Yeah,
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good.
Now, you're up there in Sweden. You're a Muslim refugee, really, ultimately.
Well, yeah, I have a Muslim background, but I'm an atheist. So,
Right. Um, I was talking to you earlier about the tangled web the left weaves. And you have to sort of double read articles now. Like there was an article that you were talking about where it said, Swedish women are leaving to join ISIS. And that sounds bizarre. I imagine all these blonde-haired, blue-eyed women going to ISIS where I assume they're going to get raped to death. But it's really Muslim refugees who have just been here for an hour going back home.
well, I think like there's a problem with radicalization in our ghettos, our immigrant-dominated ghettos, that's been getting worse over the years. So I imagine it's probably a lot of second-generation immigrants. I mean, from the cases I've seen like immigrant girls that are like 15 years young joining ISIS. So I would imagine that it's people who've been here for a while and not necessarily newly arrived refugees. But no, it's probably not blonde girls.
It's not blonde girls, right.
Oh.
It's strange. And we have that here, too. In America and Canada, you end up with second generations being more radical than their parents. Like the Sarnev brothers were, their parents were pretty secular. But we have this anti-Western sentiment taught in schools. And eventually the other guys go, the immigrants go, all right, well, let me look up my culture. Oh, look, it's anti-American, too. It's anti-Swedish, too. I'm going to go that route.
Well, actually, I read an interesting theory about that, which was that, as you mentioned, their parents are secular. So it's their way of rebelling against their parents.
Right.
By becoming radicals. Like, we used to just have punks and rockers and people are like, oh, you don't understand me. But now they're fucking blowing themselves up. So
like the Bromley, in Bromley, England, the Bromley contingent used to be Billy Idol and Susie Sue of the Banshees. Now the Bromley contingent is Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. That's what's happened to rebellion in one generation.
And I actually seen like in Denmark, especially like blonde Danish white girls joining ISIS.
Oh.
Like that happens. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Denmark because that was another strange story that you have to peel back the layers on, where they talked about a refugee center where unaccompanied children, that's a very disturbing term, unaccompanied children were being raped. And you go, that's not what it sounds like. It's obviously terrible, but it's very different from what it initially sounds like.
Well, actually, I mean, age testing has revealed several countries in Scandinavia, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, have all done age tests. And basically, from anywhere from 50 to 90% of those tested are above the age of 18. So obviously, unaccompanied children aren't children. But then you got actual cases where, I mean, some of them actually are very young and children. And here in Sweden, we've had, I think it's like 15 cases of gang rapes on young boys thus far. And it's all thanks to the immigration from Afghanistan, because there's this thing there called Bahabazi.
Yes.
Anyone can look it up. And basically, it's cultural. Like there's this cultural molestation of boys going on. I mean, Afghanistan is so fucking misogynist that they even view young boys as women, and then they can treat those women like shit. So
right, because they're so segregated, they don't meet women, they don't hang out with women, so they end up getting horny and they just sleep with young boys. So these unaccompanied children could have been 18-year-olds that were having semi-voluntary sex, culturally raping boys because that's part of their disgusting culture.
Yeah, I don't think it's consensual. I mean, I read another article here in Sweden with one, I think it was a spokesperson for the Afghani Unaccompanied Refugees Association here. And his estimation was that maybe 80% of Afghani men have experienced sexual assault as young. So, I mean, I don't think there's any consent in the culture, actually. I think it's just rapey as fuck.
Yeah. Well, what was that thing you said about women, these old hippie hags molesting the young refugee boys they take in?
Yeah, that's so fucked up. I don't want to shamelessly self-promote here, but I think people should check out the video I did on it, because I have a lot of pictures, and they're really
What's it
funny.
called, the video?
It's called Refugee Children and the Women Who Sexually Exploit Them.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, I have pictures, and it's fucking hilarious because you got this like phenomena here. It seems like a very Swedish phenomena where it's called Batikhäxor, meaning tie-dye witch or tie-dye hag. Basically, it's these middle-aged women, at least 30 years old, that dress like hippies in earthy tones and usually work in the public sector, like as a social worker or, you know, a teacher or something. And they like brag on social media about how much they love taking care of their refugee boys. Then you look at the pictures and the dude is like 25 fucking years old. And there's two reactions, right? Either he's like, help me, I don't want to fuck this old bitch. Or he looks like, yeah, this is a jackpot. Like, I nailed it. I got pussy and I got welfare, so I'm not leaving anytime soon. Those are like the two reactions. So I think that some of them are genuinely being exploited, whereas others are just like, hey, this is fucking awesome. But yeah, there's been like a lot of articles about how staff and employees at so-called refugee houses for unaccompanied children are having sex with the children. And I imagine that some of them are children, but most of them probably aren't children.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the Swedes have castrated all the men there, so they import misogynists from other countries so they can have better sex.
Yeah, and the taxpayers are paying for this shit. And there is actually a element of exploitation here, because there are several migrants who, I mean, they describe being afraid of the staff that they're having sex with, and they're basically being like promised marriage and citizenship in Sweden if they do sexual favors. So it's basically like Sweden's version of the Catholic Church and the whole pedophile scandal there, you know.
That's stunning. You know,
the media doesn't say anything.
The takeaway from all this is when you assume that other cultures are like yours and you're just going to take them in and then they'll assimilate and you'll have a new populace, it ignores the fact that other people, other cultures are deep to their spine inherently different. And the more you try to ignore that, the more of a tangled web you weave until we can't even read the newspaper without having to Google for 20 minutes to find out what's really going on.
Yeah, that's why the alternative media has been getting more and more popular, increasing their profit, whereas the mainstream media is losing both people's trusts and people's money. So there's a reason. And I think people should, and that's the way we need to fight back. Like, people need to give money to the alternative media and to the ones who are speaking out about it like we do, and not give their money to the mainstream media. Like, use ad block when you go on their sites. And if you want to share an article, don't share the article. Take a print screen instead. Take a snapshot. Or use this website called unvis.et, unvise it. If you Google the term "stop endorsing idiots," then you're going to find it. Basically, what it allows you to do is share an article without it registering the view. So basically, no ad revenue. That's one thing.
Sold. All right, Angry. Well, we're out of time, but thanks for coming on the show. We like checking in on you Europeans once in a while because it smells a lot like Canada's future.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard good stuff about Canada either.
No. Well, your canary in the coal mine is sick, and ours is starting to cough, too.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. I like you more than a friend.
Yeah, same. Bye.
Bye. Heave high, oh.